Niche Nirvana. Finding your unique voice will lead to heavenly results. Hey fam, FKAjazz here with another episode of Building a Sustainable Music Career. I hope you had a great week. I hope your mindset has shifted from hobbyist to professional. If you haven't seen those videos, I'll link that up here or here. Figure that out. Now it's time to get into identifying what makes you so special. Ultimately, I don't think you need to be special to have a successful business. But I do think in order to have a sustainable career, especially a sustainable career in music, identifying something unique about yourself or your business ultimately makes it easier for you to find your people, to find the people that are really going to support what it is that you do. One of the most challenging aspects of business is finding a way to stand out, to set yourself apart from all the noise, from all the other options out there. Some people do outrageous stuff just to draw attention to themselves, to draw attention to their brand. But ultimately, that's exhausting. That will burn out super quick. The magic is finding a way to create a successful and sustainable career, being yourself and doing what you love. Call me naive, but I think the most important thing we can do starts and ends with us being our authentic selves. Here are 3 steps to successfully identify your niche and get your business to a state of nirvana. Step 1. Self-discovery. The first step to identifying your niche comes from self-discovery. Understanding your interests and passions, what knowledge and skills you have, what your values are, what your perspective and experience is, all lead to discovering your niche. As an example, discovering my artist name, FKAjazz, actually led to me discovering my niche. Quick backstory, I'm not sure if I've told this story on this channel before, but the pivotal moment for me was when my homie Dylan asked me to open for him for a show that he was doing at Webster Hall. Prior to that, I was mostly performing and producing with my electronic duo, Pax Humana. But this was like kind of the first opportunity that I got to do something on my own. I had a ton of solo material that I was working on, so I was super excited to be able to share that material with people on stage for the first time. For him, he probably didn't think too much of it, but he asked me, what should he put on the flyer? I really had to go back and forth. I was like, okay, do I create an artist name? Do I just use my name, Samir Zarif? What do I do? At the end of the day, I decided to create an artist name, FKAjazz. Even though I've done all sorts of music, everything from house music to hip hop, jazz has always been the centerpiece for how I approach creating and performing music. So when it came down to picking a name for myself, I kind of knew I wanted to add jazz in the name somehow. All in all, long story short, that's how I came up with FKAjazz, or formerly known as Jazz. I felt not only that it was a great name for myself, but it also represented the type of music that I create. Because, in my opinion, everything from hip-hop to R&B to funk to rock and roll to house music, all of that stuff really comes from the lineage that is jazz music. Feel free to debate me or agree with me in the comment section below. The simple act of naming myself ultimately helped me uncover who I am as an artist, my artist identity, my perspective on music, and the why of why I do what it is that I do the way I do it. Whether that comes from your artist name, your passions, whatever it is, take that self-discovery so you can find your niche nirvana. Step 2. Market research. The next step to finding your niche nirvana comes from market research. Normally with market research, people will tell you to focus on competitor analysis and market trends. For me, I think that's a bit of a waste of time when you're trying to find what's special about what it is that you do. Remember in my last video when I was talking about the downfalls of comparing yourselves to others? How it can ultimately lead to self-doubt and be demotivating? That's why I think step 1 is way more important than trying to do competitor analysis. Instead of competitor analysis, I think it's time we flip the script and we focus on peer analysis. Let's get away from thinking of the people that are doing similar things to us as competitors. Rather, I think it's important we look at them as friends, as peers, people that can ultimately be a part of your support system, your ecosystem. Let's get away from this scarcity mentality. We gotta live our lives with a sense of abundance. When we do so, we find ourselves surrounded by people that are supportive, there for us. I couldn't be more grateful for the saxophone community that I have here in New York. People like Mario Castro and Burnell Jones, these are guys that have passed on gigs and opportunities to me that they couldn't do themselves, that ultimately led to me opening and broadening my own network. If I had or they had some kind of competitor attitude towards me or me towards them, we wouldn't be able to be in this ecosystem where we get to help each other. So instead of me looking at them as competitors, I actually look at them as peers. I get really inspired by the stuff that they do, and hopefully they get inspired by the stuff that I do as well. But the beautiful thing is, what they do is special to them, and what I do is special to me. But at the end of the day, we all play saxophone. Another aspect of market research is learning how to target your audience. Now it's so much easier to find your people with tools like meta ads, social media, platforms like Hyped It, and actually using Spotify as a tool as well. As I mentioned before, I use Hyped It to run a specific ad for my This Is FKAjazz playlist. That ad campaign is specific to finding people that actually like my music enough to follow a playlist of just my music. It's the most concentrated way for me to find my people online right now. I don't know about you, but at the beginning of my career, I was definitely all over the place, doing all sorts of different things. Part of it was, of course, my self-discovery journey, finding out what I was actually good at. One of the things I found from looking at my Spotify numbers on Spotify for Artists was that people were actually gravitating towards my instrumental jazz electronica music more so than my other stuff. So it's allowed me to see that if I focus on this type of music, which ironically is the music that I love to make the most, I'll actually start to grow a lot faster. All in all, these tools are there to help guide you. Being able to hone in on what my niche is has now allowed me to clear the clouds and to focus, to narrow in on the things that are working the best. Step 3, developing your niche proposition. The last step in reaching your niche nirvana that we're going to cover in this video is developing your niche proposition. To develop your niche proposition, I'm going to break this up into 3 different categories. The first one, problem and solution. To illustrate this, let me talk a little bit about my brand, OMG Jazz. For several years, I actually worked as an audiobook editor. I worked for one of the biggest audiobook production companies in the States. In the beginning, it was seriously fun. I got to work on books by Bernie Sanders, Pope Francis, 50 Cent, Gary Vee, super outrageous books. Out of all of the books that I edited, pretty much 99% of them didn't have any music. And for the 1% that did, only had music at the beginning and the end of the book. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool to have a soundtrack to the audiobook? I'm sure you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I never really thought of that. And surprisingly, when I talk to people about my company OMG Jazz, they didn't really think about this either. So for me, I knew that this was a problem that I had a solution to, because every time I talked to people about this idea, they got kind of excited and wanted to hear the book right away. Now, we're super excited because in a few months, we get to release our first full project, the album, the audiobook, and the art collection. Value proposition. This one might sound a little bit repetitive, redundant, but I think it's worth mentioning. Value proposition should not be slept on. It's not only important for you to identify what makes you different, but it's also important to know how to communicate that difference to your audience. For OMG Jazz, we're a company that combines music, art, and storytelling. All 3 of those things independently are not new. but combined in the audiobook space, that's the part that makes it special. What you or your brand doesn't have to be new. It could be something that already exists, but is done better, or is done with a fresh, new perspective. Adapt and evolve. I've definitely had to do a lot of adapting, a lot of evolving in the music industry as a whole. But even in this past year, when I created FKAjazz with my co-founder Sashku, we went through a ton of adapting and a ton of evolution even in this 1 year. Initially, when we first started working together, I literally just asked him if he could do artwork for one song. That turned into us doing a whole NFT collection. But eventually, as we continued to work together and evolve, we knew that we wanted our brand to be way bigger than just the NFT space. It wasn't a rejection of our first initial idea. In actuality, we still love NFTs and we love the NFT community that we've been able to build. Now, we just see that as a part of FKAjazz and not the whole of FKAjazz. This growth didn't come out of the blue. We listened to our audience. We paid attention to their behavior, what made them excited, what made them bored. That's all led to us wanting to focus more on projects like Fearless and FKAjazz Ninja Saga that's coming out in May, or our FKAjazz IRL events. So yeah, not sugarcoating this, it's not easy. That's a lot, right? But I know you can do it. Yes, people love the things that they're already familiar with. So breaking the mold is definitely hard. It's hard as Ultimately, it's a lot easier at first to just copy and paste what other people are doing. But obviously, that's not sustainable. Being yourself takes way less energy. And yes, for me, it's taken me a long time to understand this. 20 years, in fact. I went from being a jazz musician, an electronic music producer, an audiobook editor, a DJ, all of these different things. But now the beautiful thing is I get to do them all at once under one umbrella. And yeah, that's a lot. You don't have to do as much as I'm doing. I'm a little bit nuts. And also, you're watching this video. So, hindsight is 2020. It's not gonna take you 20 years like it took me. And if it does, that just puts so much validity on the things that you've decided to do with your career. So big ups, fam. You're doing it. You're building your sustainable career. We're all gonna win together, right? Because we're living with a sense of abundance. And we're in our niche nirvana state. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. I'm curious what your niche is. I shared mine. I'd love for you to share yours. Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching. Peace.